YouTube, what's the deal? It's your girl Jahira, and I am back. What's going on, everybody? So here's the thing. I was approached by a representative from a website known as We Happy Trans to upload a 7-question tag that they had created for the purposes of their site. Now, We Happy Trans is this website dedicated to uplifting and promoting the positive experiences of trans individuals, trans identified people. And it's unfortunate that a website like this really even needs to exist in the first place, but the reality of the situation is a lot of the major news stories in regards to trans people generally have a negative connotation or are describing negative circumstances. And so this website was dedicated to reinforcing the fact that there are trans people who live visibly and proudly and are leading, generally happy lives and are looking to sort of enrich and empower the lives of other people, be they trans or otherwise. So I'm super excited to be able to do this. And the 7-question tag is coming up right now. And it's just going to be overviewing some stuff that you may not have known about me, or at least about the trans aspect of my experience through life. So you might learn something today, or you might just reinforce what you already know about me for those who have been with me for an extended period of time. Either way, I really hope you enjoy it. And so here goes my 7-question tag to wehappytrans.com. Mwah. Well, my name is Jahira D'Alto, and D'Alto is actually not my legal last name. It is my mother's maiden name, and when I legally changed my name, I took it on as sort of a second middle name. But for branding purposes, I do utilize Jahira D'Alto, and also sort of in deference to my mother and my mother's side of the family, which have been more of a constant presence in my life post-transition. And for identity purposes, I am a woman of transsexual experience. So, yeah, that's my name. You know, I've been very blessed in my life to have had a myriad of support throughout this process. And it has been a long process. But I have to say, in terms of most supportive, I really do have to say my mother. It's an interesting story, and people who know me personally know it, but my mother is a mature woman. You know, she's older. She was older when I came into her life, and she was present for the hippie days and for refusal to enlist and for the disco era and the entire concept of transitioning completely bypassed her. She was raised in a very traditional, very Roman Catholic, Italian American home, and went directly from her mother's house to nursing school into marriage, and had actually never heard the word transgender until I announced to her that that's what my reality was. And so to see somebody who came from such a regimented foundation where she was blithely unaware of the sexual revolution and the feminist movement and all these things that were going on around her, to then hear about this and dig into it rather than run from it. By dig into it, I'm referring to researching and phone calls and trying to gain a better understanding of this thing that her child is explaining to her, and then to come to a place where she is probably one of the most fervent and motivated allies I've ever come across is astounding to me, and really speaks to the power of a person's willingness to change when they get it in their mind that they are determined to understand that which had previously been unbeknownst to them. So my mother is kind of incredible actually, and yeah, she supported me every single step of the way. So my mother, yeah. Mm. This is a difficult question to answer because my transition began at 16 years old. I was a sophomore in high school when I began living full time. And so much of my life, I'm now, and I don't mind saying this, 34. So over half of my life has been spent, you know, as the woman you see before you today. So what I enjoy most about my life since beginning transition is life. I enjoy life. I mean, in in any situation, I believe that it's always better to stand in one's truth than to lie down in a lie. And standing in my truth, for better or worse, has afforded me opportunities that I don't believe I ever would have had I remained concealed, had I remained um, in the proverbial closet. I've been incredibly blessed, and it doesn't mean that every day is, sunshine and beach trips, but ultimately the issues that I face, I I deal with the grace and the fortitude and the sensibility and the strength that comes from knowing that I am exactly who I was always meant to be, and I'm living that. It's visual. It's all over me, and that to me is pretty phenomenal, actually. What are some of the things you love doing now that you couldn't do before? Um, I really kind of have to defer back to the same response. Even the things that aren't necessarily great, like feeling the sting of misogyny, at least I'm doing, when that happens, at least I'm doing that being true to myself, and being convicted in resting on my laurels, so to speak. Um, yeah, I've just been incredibly blessed in that way. I enjoy everything about life, approaching it from an honest place. So I hope that makes sense. This is also a difficult question to answer, and I say so because, from my viewpoint, any trans individual who decides to step off that cliff and soar in their own truth is worthy of admiration. And so, really, trans people in general are my role models. But in terms of, being specific, the first person I absolutely have to mention is Nancy Nangeroni. I don't know how many people would know of this person, but she is an incredible woman who, when I was, again, 16, growing up in Boston, I had the opportunity to meet very early on. I mean, months into my transition. And she is such a formidable force. She's so passionate and convicted about the need for equality and justice and change and revolution. And I was incredibly shy at that age. And I used to just watch her. And she truly represented the kind of woman that I wanted so desperately to become. I wanted to be visible and active and um, driven. And she was all of those things. And thank God she's still with us today. And so Nancy Nangeroni, formerly of the Transsexual Menace, is really the first person. She was the first example of what a strong trans woman looked like. And I am forever indebted to her for providing me with that example. Um, And another name that I have to mention, who's no longer here with us, very unfortunately, is Octavia Saint Laurent, or Heavenly Angel Octavia Saint Laurent. Octavia was an unbelievably, beautifully flawed human being. You may know of her from the movie Paris is Burning. And I had the opportunity to know her on a personal level, not so much sitting in our pajamas and braiding each other's hair, but knowing her and to see this beautifully broken soul who had so many dreams and aspirations for her own life, but circumstances precluded some of those dreams from coming true. But even through all of that, she remained a positive and kind and gentle and fragile woman who had this unbelievable joie de vivre. I'm very grateful for the opportunities that I had to conversate with her and to call her sister. And she absolutely was one of my role models. And so those are just two examples. But again, all of us, in our own way, have something to contribute. And that contribution, in my eyes, is always worthy of recognition. So, my role models. For me, once I became secure in the awareness that I was a woman and that I didn't need to parenthetically attach anything to that moniker, women became my passion. And the plight of women became my passion. And more specifically, or more to the point, it bothers me, it troubles me very deeply that as women, we tend to put ourselves on the back burner and that we tend to identify ourselves through our relationships with others, someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's daughter, and not really formulating an identity on our own. And then we tend to feel unworthy of some of life's pleasures or life's joys if we take time out for ourselves, if we actually tune into what it is that we want rather than making sure the kids are up for ready for school and making sure that the husband has a great day at work and making sure that our own mothers are taken care of and making sure that PTA meetings and school events and all of these encompassing things are taken care of rather than tending to our own needs. And I have found to be true in my life, and I have heard the cries of hundreds, if not thousands, of women that say, I need something for myself. And when I am operating in my fullest capacity, everything that I give to everyone else comes from a much more genuine and a much richer place. And so encouraging women, and by I mean cis or trans women, to put themselves first, not in a selfish way, but in a self-serving way, is really what I'm all about. Because again, when I'm at 100, everything over and beyond that, there's no resentment attached to it. I'm happy to give it because my needs are being met. And I feel that if more women would step into that awareness and step into their own power, this world would run a whole lot more efficiently. That's sincerely what I believe. And that is absolutely my passion. Well, it's funny that you should ask. I actually have a YouTube channel. I can be found at youtube.com/Jahairas Mission. No apostrophe, just Jahairas Mission. And I'm so grateful. Like, I can't tell you psychologically what vlogging or vlogging has done for me, because I talk about so many different things. I mean, news piece commentary and book reviews and protective hairstyles and life stuff and PTSD. There's such a hodgepodge myriad of topics that are covered on this channel, and it's all with the intent of giving women, giving people, really, I try to speak to everybody, a break and a chance, and get them morally outraged about issues that are taking place in the world, whether trans issues or general issues that I really feel like people need to know about and might not necessarily. It is one of the best things that's ever happened to me. And I think that in some way, for many of my, I call subtastics, which is fantastic subscriber, subtastic, they don't have another trans person in their life, and I'm it. It starts and ends with me. And so to a certain degree, my subtastics, because I pride myself on being very open and honest about the issues that I face in my life, they know me. They know me, and so they can say that they know a person of trans experience. And maybe being around me and listening to what I have to say and vibing with me and commenting and back and forth gives them an opportunity to see that even I, as a trans individual, am really no different from their next door neighbor or their sister or their girlfriend or their mother or, any number of things. And I think that there is a real pressing need for people, as I am, with passing privilege, to be visible. I absolutely believe that, because I'm very aware that I'm fortunate and I'm blessed to be able to maneuver through the world without attracting a great deal of attention or without necessarily being perceived through my history or due to my history. And even with that, and even as a younger person, I should say, that seemed to be the goal. You don't want to get spooked. You don't want to get clocked. And this was sort of the great American dream, to be able to make it without, getting a bottle thrown at you or derogatory names or getting arrested for going in the bathroom. And I know that I have that privilege. I'm very aware of it. I'm acutely aware of it. But at the same time, I really believe that now more than ever we need people who have passed, who are passable, to stand up and say, you know what, this is who I am, and this is the avenue that it took to get me to where I am. But this is my community, and this is my reality, and this is my truth. And I really am no different than you, or you, or you. And YouTube has given me the ability to do that. And so I'm incredibly grateful for it. And I fully intend to continue along that vein. Because we are a community that faces so many different obstacles, because we are a community that has so much up against us, I think that we have a tendency to forget exactly how far we've come. And I can't help but reflect upon my own transition as a result of this video. When I first began my transition, gay-straight alliances were a novelty in schools, and drop-in centers were a rarity. So many of the resources that are so readily available to people now just weren't there when I began. And I look and I consider just the journey that we've all been on and where we are today. And that really means something to me. And although I know that we have so much further to go, I pray, and this is sort of one issue that I'm particularly passionate about, that we will take time out to address our trans youth. And in particular, our trans youth of color. I am a woman of color hasta la muerte, and I feel particularly convicted about this because there is a disparity in the level of acceptance amongst people of color, versus situations like Jazz and situations like Koi. The stand by your child mentality oftentimes doesn't exist, and so our young girls are far too often subjected to have to contend with homelessness, to have to engage in sex work, to have to fall into addictive behaviors. And I feel that these people are particularly close to my heart. And we have to take a moment to reflect upon the needs of our children because, you know, the days of the Christine Jorgensens and the Renee Richards and people coming to terms with who they are later in life, we're seeing the polar opposite of that occurring. Our younger kids know who they are and have no greater desire than to express that. And we have to take time out. We absolutely have to segment some of our energy into remembering our children because they are our children. The experience that we've gained and the lessons that we've learned and all that we are today is something that should absolutely be funneled into our young people to help them to reach the conclusion that they are so much more than just a gender or no gender or a non-conforming gender. It's time. It's time to remember the children. That's absolutely how I feel. I cannot thank Jen enough for asking me to make this video and offer this contribution to WeHappyTrans.com. Jen, thank you so much. I appreciate you. God bless you. Thank you. And to all of you, I hope that you've gained something from this. I had such a blast making it. And again, thank you so much. This is Jahaira Dialto for WeHappyTrans.com. One love.